Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. I'd like to thank you today for tuning into this week's episode. This episode is going to be talking about my experience with the Oregon Ducks, kind of a continuation of my last podcast that I did. In my last podcast, I talked about my experience with the Oregon State Beavers, and that was in part of a trip that I got to see both teams at the same day. If you hadn't had a chance to listen to that podcast, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. Before I get into this one, though, a little housekeeping to do. First off, if you would like to contact me to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, that's my specialty. Or if you'd like to go see a game, perhaps you'd like to go see the Oregon Ducks, you can reach out to me in a couple ways. One of the ways is by email. My email address is j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. That's just jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me through social media. I have both a Facebook and Instagram account. Both of those are the same name, Jay's Paradise Travels. It's Jays. There's no apostrophe in that. Jay's Paradise Travels at either Instagram or Facebook. You can reach out to me that way too. So there's a little bit of housekeeping to start it off. Now let's get into the podcast itself and talk about my experience with the Oregon Ducks. As I mentioned, this was part of a trip that I took that included both Oregon State and Oregon. My previous podcast, I talked about it. Hopefully you had a chance to listen to it. If not, maybe you can go back and listen to it. Or I will give a little just brief overview of what happened. We ended up flying out to Eugene, Oregon, which I have a cousin there and her family. And we ended up staying with them. Got to go there on like Thursday night. We spent the day with them Friday, and then Saturday were the two games. Oregon State was the first game that we attended. That was like the noon game. And we went there, saw them play. They beat up on Cal Poly. And my cousin's daughter was with us at the time. She ended up coming with us last minute. It was nice to have her. We enjoyed the game together. It was a very nice, pleasant day. And the details of it are in that previous podcast. Now, to continue on that, after we left Oregon State, we went back to their home to drop off their daughter. Thankfully, Corvallis and Eugene are not super far away from each other. I want to say it took maybe like an hour ish to to go between the two. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure my mic here is okay. Um, and so it takes about an hour ish to get to. So we got back from there, was able to drop her off. I think we may have had just a little time. We may have eaten some. I can't remember what we did exactly in that meantime. And then we went over to catch the game. From where they live, they live in Eugene, and that's where the Oregon Ducks are at. They're in Eugene, Oregon. It wasn't that far to get to. So easy drive, not far. We parked there, walked up to the stadium. It was a pleasant evening as well. The whole day just was very pleasant. This was in, about mid-September time. Nice weather. And when we got there, so this was an evening game. It had enough time to get from one stadium to the other. It was an evening game, but by the time we got there, it wasn't quite night yet. It was still some daylight. And as always, I like to go around the stadium, take some pictures, and I was able to do that. They did have some little bit of festivities going on. A lot of stadiums do. A lot of stadiums do. If you go early enough, they may have some tents out there, some things going on, people hosting, giveaways or whatever. There's activities going on. And there was there too, some tents set up and some other things going on. And I remember we went there. We kind of walked around it. I don't know if we necessarily did much besides walking around and seeing it and just kind of getting in there. And I took some pictures. There was like this big blow up football player that was part of it. That was kind of interesting. First time I seen anything like that before in a stadium. Took a picture of that, and then we started going in. And where we were at, the entrance that we were getting into, I don't know location where that was, if that was like a north entrance or a south entrance or anything like that. I don't know which entrance it was, not that familiar with it. But whatever the entrance was, and if you're familiar with Oregon and been there, maybe you know it. But wherever entrance that was, we started walking up, and as we were walking up, here comes the team. They're on the outside of the stadium. They're walking into the stadium, and you got fans there. I want to say that maybe even the band was there playing the fight song as they were coming in. I thought that was cool. There's only been maybe a couple times that I've ever got to see a team either go in and out of the stadium. That was one of the times. That was kind of neat. So if you ever do go to Oregon, um, I'm sure it could be Googled to find out what entranceway they come into. You probably see it yourself too. I don't know. But I did think it was kind of cool. We did that, got to go in, and one of the things that I appreciated about going into the stadium, now whether or not I don't know if I officially looked it up or not, but it ended up happening this way. A while back, I had bought like um, these seat cushions that have a back that's attached to them. Because when you go to a college football game, a lot of times they're just bench seats and there's no backs to them, and that gets incredibly uncomfortable for me because I'm constantly leaning forward and then just starts hurting my back. So I want to lean back, but if there's nothing to lean back on, then it's hard to do. And I found them at Aldi, of all places. And there was some stadiums they will not let that in at all. And I think if you heard my podcast about my experience with the Indiana Hoosiers, they were one of them. They would not let them in at all. Oregon didn't seem to have a problem. Maybe it is against their policy. I don't know, but if it was, no one stopped me from it. We were able to get in and we were able to use them, and they were extremely helpful. We got there early enough. The game hadn't started yet. We got to go find our seats, set up those little things. Not like there's a big setup, just kind of hooks underneath the bench itself, and did that. Was able to. Um, I think we even maybe have got up and walked around just a little bit, um, but got to be there pregame, and it's cool. Their pregame. Um, I mean, every team's going to have like some kind of pregame thing, which can be kind of cool. But there was a boisterous crowd, loud crowd when it was time for them to come onto the field. So the Oregon Ducks have a mascot that's a duck, obviously. What his name is, I don't remember. But in the pregame part of it, he actually like rides out on a motorcycle in front of the team. Not too many mascots do that. The only other one I could think of that I've seen, and have to eventually talk about in another podcast, is Wake Forest. It's the only one I can think of. But in this particular case, with the Oregon Ducks, the duck, the mascot, was on a motorcycle, rides off into the field. Right by him comes the team, as they're playing their fight song. Pretty cool atmosphere, not gonna lie, and pretty neat little um, pregame that we got to experience. And they're a good crowd. Ducks fans, they're passionate about their team. If you did listen to my previous episode, and I talked about the Oregon State Beavers, I kind of mentioned that was a little bit more subdued, not overly crazy, not overly wild or anything like that. Still not a bad turnout, but obviously not like electrifying. Oregon, on the other hand, was definitely full and loud and boisterous, a good fan base, and they were playing the Montana Grizzlies, like some Division two team. It's not called Division two anymore. It's called FCS, but they're not on Oregon's level. And usually those type of games are you know it doesn't always like generate the biggest buzz because it's not another big team. But despite that, Oregon still had a bunch of fans there going nuts. And even from the pregame, people were in there, they were in their seats. It was a full stadium, it was loud. And one of the things that they do that I thought was kind of cool, that right before the fourth quarter started, um, they played on the jumbotron the song. I think it's called "Shout," and I think it's by the Isley Brothers. You make me want to shout, do 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 do. Okay, I'm not gonna sing it. I'm not a good singer, but anyways, if you've ever heard that song, you may have heard it at games. So they play that, and the whole crowd gets into it. Not every team does something, between the third and fourth quarters. Wisconsin does jump around. Michigan does Mr. Brightside. Um, no, 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 not Mr. Brightside. I'm sorry. They do something else. Blues Brothers thing, whatever. Anyways, so there's certain teams that do certain things. So it looks like Oregon, they do shout, and I thought that was pretty cool too. That was a fun experience. And again, when the crowd gets into something, and it's electrified atmosphere. I love that type of stuff. Definitely, you know, enjoyed that too. So yeah, nice little experience. Anyways, as regards the game itself, um, I mean, they were playing Montana, just like Oregon State was playing Cal Poly, a team that was a lot lower than them, and ended up handling them quite handily. Oregon pretty much did the same thing. Now, depending on the teams and depending on you know how whatever team you're playing, if you take them seriously, you don't take them seriously, they might be able to rise up and give you a challenge, maybe even upset you. That has happened, does happen from time to time. Um, didn't in this game. We thought maybe we could see a game. Nope, both of them were pretty much blowouts. So in this game, um, when I looked it up, I forgot that he was the quarterback, but Justin Herbert, who is actually in the NFL right now, the timing of this recording of this podcast does pretty well for the Chargers. He was the quarterback for Oregon back then, and he threw 5 touchdown passes in that game. Started off with 2 in the first quarter, both of them to a guy named Jacob Breland. Took a 14-0 lead into the second, and then he proceeded to throw a touchdown pass in every single quarter after that. In the second and third quarter, both he threw to a guy named Johnny Johnson the third. You gotta love that name when you got the first name and last name pretty much the same thing. They both have the root word of John in there, Johnny Johnson. um, and then in the last quarter, another one to Jalen Red uh, to cap off 5 touchdowns. He also had over 300 yards passing that day. Just you know, nice incredible game for him. I know it's Montana, but you know, I've never thrown 1 yard or 1 touchdown pass in college football. And if I even tried, I'm sure it would be very difficult. So anyone who can do it, even if it's against a lower team, it's still something to, I guess you could be proud of. And Montana did kick a field goal, so no shutout. Good for Montana Grizzlies, right? Yeah. It was interesting that when I went there, not too long before that, I want to say maybe a month or 2 months before that, whatever it was, um, I had met someone who was originally from Montana, and I ended up texting him some pictures of the game that we were at. He was like, "Oh, okay, Montana, yeah." And I don't think he was following them or anything like that, but I just thought it was interesting that hey, here they are, they're playing Oregon. Yeah, not much of a game, which that's all right. Oregon did have a pretty good season. For the most part, um, they're usually a pretty good, solid football team. I would consider them one of the big dogs. Growing up, I didn't hear much about them. I mean, they've had, I don't think they have some long, storied tradition like your Alabama and your Michigan and your Ohio States and things like that. Because I don't remember them too much, but like when I was younger, but as I got older, they started developing into a real solid school, and it has been pretty solid ever since. Um, whether or not you know much about Oregon or not, I don't know. You may know that um, ah, I'm blanking on the name now, but the dude is at Nike. I think he was an alum at Oregon, so they have like an association with Nike. Hey, just like on my shirt here right now. I've never seen Oregon with Adidas or you know Under Armour or anything like that. So yeah, they got that, and because of that, Nike, is affiliated with them, does a lot for them, which really helps with like their stadium and their uniforms, and now I'm sure with NIL, I'm sure they help with that a lot. They have a bunch of like Okay, so their color scheme is green and orange, as you can see. Not green and orange. What am I saying? Green and yellow, as you can see here. If you're, like I said, if you're familiar with them, great. If you're not, here's a little lesson on them, I suppose. Um, so their color scheme is green and yellow. But within their uniforms, I mean, they just have all kinds of combinations that they use. They could go from green, they could go yellow, they could include white, they can include black, and sometimes they look like highlighters out there. Just the way that they. And I mean, I guess that's kind of like their thing. Like I've never, I cannot think of another college program that has as many uniform combinations that they've gone through than the Oregon Ducks. Um, I think that's kind of known. They probably use it to pitch it to recruits, and it's just kind of something they're known for. I'm sure Nike has something to do with that, as well in the background there. They're probably a part of that as well. Yeah, they've got that. Um, so we got to. I don't even remember what the color combination was that we got to. It wasn't like that stood out in my mind, whatever it was. But whatever it is, that's what they have. A lot of different colors. That's something about Oregon, which is kind of an interesting thing. The stadium itself, I thought was a really cool stadium. Like the design of it is really neat. When I was walking up to it, I'd always heard about Autzen Stadium. That's the name of their stadium, Autzen Stadium. It's about a 50,000 seat stadium, according to what I looked up, and the attendance that I saw, it said 49,000. So it was, uh, pretty much a full crowd, and to be expected. Like I said, their fan base is pretty huge, and even against a lower team, even against the Montana Grizzlies, they still, sold out, had a full stadium. Definitely could see it. Definitely could tell. You know, and I had always heard about Autzen Stadium. That it's very loud in there, and it's the design of it is what makes it that way. And it was cool to be a part of. Definitely got to say, yeah, it is a loud crowd. I appreciated the atmosphere of it. Going up to it when I was taking pictures of the outside, I thought it was a cool looking design. Um, that I don't know exactly how to describe the design of it, but it is kind of unique. And they have, their big O that they got that kind of all over, not to say all over, but in a couple places on the outside, on the building itself, and what looks like the scoreboard. And that always reminded me of like the Bellagio, the hotel in Vegas. I know it's not the same, but it's always kind of reminded me of it. And because of it, when you're sitting down, you're not always quite sure, like, what side of the field am I? Am I on the one the camera's on, or am I on the other one? Because it's just a no. Either side you look at, it looks the same. But they got that and so what's kind of unique about that I did notice. So on the outside where we came in, what I saw what looked like a really cool, unique design. I believe that on the inside, that's where one of the sidelines is. I don't remember what sideline it was though. I want to say that was probably on that sideline. It was the visiting team, and we were on the home team. So that sideline, I think, is where that design is. But what I'm trying to describe is that sideline, it's like it extenuates even further. And whether or not that is what contributes to the noise, that's part of like the design. Now they got their press boxes too. There's press boxes on both sides. We had one behind us, and there's one over there as well. So what I'm trying to describe is, and I know I've took a picture. Picture is probably just going to look like it's the normal, but let's say, okay, I'm going to do it this way. Try to bear with me here as I try to explain it. But let's say our side is a measurement of 10, okay? And I know this is going to sound nuts, but just bear with me here. Our side, the side that I was on, was a measurement of 10. And the other side, it was elongated, so maybe the measurement was up to 12, 13, or 15. It was just longer. It was a little bigger. It was a little wider. Hopefully that way of describing it comes through okay. But it was just a little bit more extended. And of course, they had the press box. So I don't know if that type of design to it as what it was. But I just always remember hearing how loud Autzen Stadium is. That like somehow the sound gets entrapped inside; it doesn't go out. Um, and I'll compare it to Michigan Stadium because for the longest time before Michigan years ago made updates and built press boxes, it was the biggest stadium, still is. But the knock on it was that it wasn't overly super loud because the noise just went up into the atmosphere and out into the ether, right? And it would be loud, but not like over deafening kind of loud. Autzen Stadium, though, even though the stadium's like seat wise half the size of Michigan Stadium, was very loud. At least that's what I've always heard the stories. And going there, it was loud. I'll definitely say that it was loud. And I'm trying to explain that from my understanding of it, it was just the way that the stadium is designed. That's why it becomes loud. It's like somehow it encapsulates the noise inside to make it loud. I mean, I'm no engineer or anything. I'm just going based on what the stories I've heard and now being able to, firsthand experience, be able to go there definitely, definitely does. I will say that it was a loud stadium to be a part of. And again, that was against Montana. Now you get well now they're in the Big Ten, but you get a Big Ten opponent, especially if it's a big game. If Michigan, I'm sure Ohio State when they played this. I'm recording this in the year that they played Ohio State at home, and I'm sure that was a loud, electrifying atmosphere. If Oregon State comes to town, their in-state rivalry. I'm sure that's even louder than what we heard when they played Montana. Definitely a fun place to go see. If you don't have a big desire to go see Oregon State, I would understand that. Um, but if you had a desire to go see Oregon, uh, I definitely would understand that. That would definitely be a bucket list thing to do. If you're a college football fan, even if you don't like the Oregon Ducks, but if you're a college football fan, whether it's your team that you want to go see them play, or you just want to go take a look at the stadium and see it, this is definitely one that should be on the bucket list. It should be something that a college football fan or a sports fan, someone who has a hobby of myself, of going to see stadiums, this is definitely one to go see. And I'm glad I got to see it. And I remember even texting another guy. There's some guys that I'll text, some friends of mine that I'll text pictures that I'm there. Maybe because mostly I think because usually I post it on social media, but not all my friends have social media accounts. So and they're sports fans. So I'll send it to him and he's like, "Wow, Autzen Stadium." Like, yeah, that was pretty cool. And that year, I think I was getting into it, but I got sidetracked. That happens a lot in these podcasts. But yeah, that year that Oregon played, they had a good team, and they had a good season. At that point, they did already have a loss under their belt. Their opening game against Auburn was a loss. But after that, they ended up doing very well and ended up obviously winning this game. The final score, just to make mention of it, was 35-3. That was the final score of this game. Five touchdown passes by Justin Herbert. Montana kicked the field goal in the third to get on the board, and that was it. They ended up having a good winning streak all the way up until the game before Oregon State. They lost at Arizona State, but then beat Oregon State at home. Played at Utah, I believe, in the Pac-12. I think they were the Pac-12 then, Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever they were at the time. I forget when it went from the Pac-10 to Pac-12. Beat them in the conference game, and then it ended up going to the Rose Bowl, beating Wisconsin by a close score of 28-27. Um, so good season, 12-2 season, and I don't can't remember when or if they've won a national championship. They've come close. I remember the very first year of the college football playoffs when they had Marcus Mariota. They ended up getting into the playoffs and getting into the national championship game, but lost to Ohio State. And then this year, uh, again, I'm recording this in January 2025. This season, they went undefeated. First year in the Big Ten, they went undefeated, including a win over Ohio State. Uh, Went to the Big Ten championship game, beat Penn State, got into the playoffs, and then lost to Ohio State. And I mean, they lost bad too. So I have to look and see if they've had any national championships under their belt. Like I said, I don't know if they're quite as storied as Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, USC, those type of teams that have gone back, like 100 years, and they've had victories and everything like that. But they're definitely one of the big boys now, that's for sure. Even if they don't maybe have that story past, and maybe they do, and I didn't know about it when I was younger. I didn't hear much about them. Maybe the accessibility to their past and their history wasn't there in Michigan growing up for me. I don't know. But regardless, they're a big team now, and I mean, I don't think they're gonna head off into oblivion anytime soon and become some lower team. They'll probably keep it going for quite a while. Definitely, again, a nice, fun, electrifying atmosphere to be a part of. Good to see. And if you're again, if you're like me, like to go see stadiums, or you want to go see your team play them, definitely should be a bucket list thing to go see Autzen Stadium, I think. And myself, I don't want to go see my team on the road. I've done it before, and I like to be a part of the home atmosphere, not against the home atmosphere. If it happens that's just how it works out, and I'll see him on the road, okay, fine, that's all right. I will do it. But preferably, I would rather see them play somebody else, and then I can be one of their fans for one day. I can root for them and be a part of the crowd that's cheering and part of that electrifying atmosphere. And in this case, I was. Now I look back on it; they were playing lower teams. They played Montana, Oregon State played Cal Poly. Probably would have been a little bit more of a even better atmosphere had I would have gone and they would have played bigger teams. Someone at that time who was in the Pac-10 or Pac-12 or now, whatever. But you know, that's okay. I still had a really good time, and it was just me and Selena. None of my family was able to make it to that game, and it was just us two. And it was a nice night game. And then we went home, went back to my cousin's place, and the next day flew out. Now we were flying standby, and we flew through Seattle to get there. So we were flying through Seattle to get back home, and we got from Eugene to Seattle okay, but then from Seattle to Detroit there was only one seat left. Like, oh man. So I let Selena take it. Go ahead. I'll try to catch the next one if I can get on the next one, and we'll see what happens. Thankfully, I was able to catch the next one, and I didn't have to wait too long because being stuck in an airport for hours or even sometimes overnight days, whatever, never a fun feeling. Never a fun feeling. It's happened. Uh, and then, when she got on, I was like, I'd rather her go and I'd be stuck than you know her be stuck someplace. So that it ended up working out. I was able to get on the next flight, thank goodness. But all in all, that trip to Oregon was a nice trip. Sometimes I go in and it's like catch the game and immediately come back. With this trip, it was nice that we came in 2 nights before and was able to spend time with my family as well. So that was a highlight. In addition to going to see the games, that was a highlight as well. Appreciated their hospitality. Appreciated them letting us stay with them, letting us use their car to go to the games, taking us to and from the airport. That was all really nice. If you have family or friends that you can go to a game or go someplace and stay with, to catch a game or whatever kind of traveling you do, it's always nice to be able to do that. And I appreciate any family or friends that have shown us that hospitality. And in return, anytime friends or family want to stay with us, they are welcome to. This is my office, but it's an office slash guest room that um, this little couch right next to us actually pulls into a little bed. We have a bed downstairs in our basement. We have half of our basement that's finished, and so we have room for guests too. Anyways, let me see here. Did I cover everything I wanted to in regards to my notes as regards this experience with Oregon? Cool looking stadium on the outside. I did mention that. I really did think that it was a pretty cool looking stadium. Um, Game itself, stadium itself. I try to break it down into little categories as I continue to do these podcasts, you tweak things, learn things, how to organize things, all kinds of stuff. What I want to bring out, what I want to say. I think I did kind of cover everything. Yeah, definitely a place to visit. That's for sure, as I mentioned. Whether you're an Oregon fan or not, to go there to see it, it's a pretty cool thing. I definitely recommend doing it. Bucket list thing again. If you're a college football fan, um, you got a team, you want to go see them. Sports fan in general, yeah, definitely a good place to go visit and go see at least once. Bucket list thing. And if you do, let me know. Be more than happy to help you with it. To be able to help to get you out there and catch a game. And if you do, let me know. Again, a couple ways you can reach out to me. Emails one, j.paradise@gmail.com. That's j.paradise@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to reach out to me through social media, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, you could do so as well. Jay's Paradise Travels. That's that, and there's no apostrophe. Jays Jay's Paradise Travels on either Instagram or Facebook. And like I said, I do try to post pictures of the teams I go see. But feel free to reach out to me as that way as well. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast here today. If you did, please like it, rate it, subscribe to it, and share it with others. Definitely trying to get the the channel going and getting more and more listeners, more and more subscribers. Could use your help with it, so feel free to share it with others, subscribe to it yourself, and please leave a comment. And I was thinking about this. I was always this is something I'm going to try to start adding here at the end. Um, is just leave a comment about your thoughts on Oregon Ducks. And when I say that, I mean anything and everything. If you like them, if you hate them, if you have some story about them, maybe you saw a game, maybe you went to another game and they were playing Oregon Ducks. Maybe you had a good experience with them, a bad experience with them. You were at a party and they were playing, whatever. If you have some kind of story, anything, any thoughts on the Oregon Ducks, please leave it in the comments. Love to hear from you because I was trying to think like of leaving like a question, leaving a question and having like a discussion on it. But then when I record it, it doesn't always. These recordings that I do, I've got it. They're kind of like in the bank a little bit, right? So I'm recording this in January 2025. It might get posted in February 2025. Like there's a few lined up, And anyways, so I was thinking, and then usually when I have them come out, I might not even be around to like put the question in the comments below. And by the time I can, people, there's already been views and whatever. So I'm just gonna speak it out loud. And I can't think of anything specific to ask about some of these teams. So what I'm gonna ask is just what kind of experience, what kind of thoughts, any impressions about the Oregon Ducks do you have? Maybe you love their jerseys and their color combinations. Maybe you hate them. There's all kinds of things. Maybe you've been to Autzen Stadium and seen it. I don't know. Whatever it is, if you have something that you can say about the Oregon Ducks, feel free to do so. And from the previous podcasts, if there's anything that of those teams that you've have an experience with or story about or thoughts towards, leave it in there too. So love to hear it and try to respond to it as well. All right. Again, hope you like this. Hope you learned something from it. Hope you enjoyed my podcast today. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye bye.